interstate system and saw what a shambles it was, okay, it was basically dirt roads, he said, we need some way of being able to move military might across our country domestically very quickly, okay? And that's where he came up with the interstate system. So our interstate system is no more than what Hitler came for in Germany, you know, as far as the development of the roads and things like that. You know, thank God Eisenhower mentality was nowhere near what Hitler's was. So we just got roads. We got a good road system out of it. So that is one of the things about the interstate that's interesting. Another thing that's interesting about the interstates is that they either begin, end, or have a military base on them. Every interstate in the United States either begin, ends, or has one on them. Okay, so it's another little interesting fact. And until very recently, you know, I was under the understanding that in each state, I just found out that it does differ by state, but in most states, and there's 38 of them currently, every 10 miles of interstate highway, there has to be a 1 mile stretch that's completely unobstructed by either weight restrictions or overhead restrictions. So there's no overpasses, there's no power lines, there's no nothing for a 1 mile stretch. Why is that? Air. Okay, land aircraft.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're going to be able to move, you know, might and military across the country, you're going to do most of it by air. Okay, so the Air Force becomes extremely important at that point, and there are 38 states within the contiguous 48 that have that ability to be able to put a aircraft on their highways, and it's for every 10 mile of the interstate, there's a 1 mile stretch completely unobstructed. So an airplane could land on it. Yeah, it's constructed that way.
Oh, that's neat.
Yep. So just 3 little facts about, you know, the interstate that's actually kind of cool. All right, so the numbering system. And this becomes important to truck drivers because understanding how interstates are numbered helps them with mile markers. And we all know what mile markers are, right? Just the little sticks on the side of the road kind of give you a location of where you are. So when you look at the United States, okay, quite obviously we have interstates that go from bottom all the way to this top that run east and west. And we have interstates that run all the way from the west coast to the east coast that run north and south. Okay, so in order to make differential, you know, indications of what interstates are where and how they're even, what directions they go and things like that, they had to come up with a numbering system that was going to be fairly consistent. And I say fairly consistent because right in Pennsylvania alone, we've got 2 of them that break the rule. Okay, but they're fairly consistent across the whole country. So any interstate, and I'm only going to talk about 2 number interstates right now. Okay, and, you know, that's all I'm going to talk about. You know, the single and double. So the 5, the 15, the 25, 35, 95, all those. Any of the 2-digit numbers that are odd numbers will always be north and south. Okay. Any interstate that you can come up with that's going to be an odd numbered interstate will run north and south. If it's an even numbered interstate, okay, which will come from the bottom, will work our way to the top, will always run east and west. Okay, so that's important to know, number 1. So east and west, even, so you can always remember east, even, okay, to begin with E. So east will always be an even number. Your odd numbers will always be north and south. Okay, so that's generally speaking how that works. Now, we always get the question about 3-digit interstates. What about the 3-digit interstates? How's that work? Okay, so let's say, for example, we take the Atlanta Beltway, okay, which is an absolute freaking nightmare. Okay, this little beltway down here. And
worse than Washington's Beltway?
Way worse. You could sit on this thing for 7 hours. Okay, this is an absolute disaster down here.
That's the one where the airplanes just about come and run over your
right
head?
Over 75. When 75 comes through here, okay, when 75 comes through here, and you get just north of here, up in a little town where we actually go, Forest Park, okay, we go, the UPS runway goes right across 75.
And looks like they're gonna land
You
on
can
you.
watch it. You can watch the aircraft come right
Yeah.
across. There's a runway right there.
Yeah.
It's a taxi runway. It's not where they're landing, but it's a taxi runway. And it looks like they're they're taking off right over top of your truck.
Yeah.
So, but it's actually pretty cool. But that is the Atlanta area, and I always point Atlanta out because I always like to give you little tidbits of information about some parts of our country that you may not know. But the Atlanta airport is not called the Atlanta airport. It's called the Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. It is the largest and the busiest airport in the world.
Yeah,
Busier than Heathrow.
Delta's it.
Okay. So and we actually have, of the 5 airports, we have 3 of the busiest and largest in the United States of the
What are the
5.
five? With that one?
Well, you have Dubai, you have Heathrow, you have O'Hare, you have Hartsfield-Jackson, and then you have LAX. So of the 5, 3 of them are here. So that's actually something a little bit to be proud of. We have the safest also. But in Atlanta, you have the 285 Beltway. Okay? Now, the interesting thing about 3-digit numbers is that they have an indication. Anytime you have 3, means it's going to be a loop. Okay? A loop of some sort. Okay? You can't always assume it's going to be a circle, but it's a loop of some sort. So find any loop around any major big cities, and you will see that it will have a 3-digit interstate that's connected with that. Because what they're trying to do in these loops is keep you away from the major city. Okay? So down here in Atlanta, the 285 Beltway does not go through Atlanta, it goes around Atlanta. But what the dummies did down here is they overdeveloped the areas around Atlanta, and now the Beltway is a mess.
City with no limits.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. So you got the same thing in Richmond. You look at Raleigh, you look at Winston-Salem. Any big major cities, you're going to see that there's going to be, the difference there. Now, the most common one that we understand here, quite obviously, is the Baltimore Beltway and the Washington Beltway. The Baltimore Beltway is 695. The Washington Beltway is 495. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. All right, we've got 2-digit interstates. Odds are north and south. The evens are east and west. Okay, and now we add another number to the front of that. The reason we know it's added to the front is because anytime that you run a loop off of the major highway, just like 695 and 495, 95 was the road that it came off of.
295 in
Okay,
Jersey.
295 in Jersey comes off at 95. 95 is the Jersey Turnpike, like it or not.
Yeah.
Okay, and it actually is 95 once you get past Carteret, which is exit 12. Right.
You don't realize
Yeah,
it.
you don't realize it, but that's the way it runs. And then it leaves Pennsylvania on 95 over the Scudder's Falls Bridge. It's the free bridge that leaves New Jersey and leaves Pennsylvania and goes into New Jersey. Okay, and then picks up on 95 on the other side and then continues. So when you have these 3-digit interstates, the 3-digit interstates just simply indicate the last 2 numbers are the interstate that it left. Okay, it will also be the interstate that it comes back if it's a loop. Other ones are called spurs. It comes off of that interstate but does not return. Okay, can you think of one locally that's a spur? And it would be locally, someplace within. It's actually in New Jersey. Can you think of one that leaves the interstate and does not come back? It goes all the way down to the shore, and literally you'd have to turn around down at the shore and come back the other direction to come back to 95. Can you think of one? Trenton, New Jersey. You get up into Trenton, get on 195. Okay, 195
That runs to
leaves
the shore?
95, runs all the way to the shore. Yep, runs all the way down to Route 138, which runs you down in the Toms River area, Brick, all that. Runs you straight down into the shore. Okay, as soon as it gets here, it stops. You got to turn around and come back if you want to go back to 95. It does not loop. That's called a spur. So the indication for you whether a road is a spur or a loop is if it begins with an even number, it's a loop.
I see.
If it's an odd number, it's a spur. Okay? So 295 comes off of 95, returns to 95. 395 will leave 95 and not come back. Where do we have a 395 around here? Oh, Baltimore. Down in Baltimore, okay, just before you get into the tunnel is 395. It leaves 95, goes right into the center of Baltimore and dead ends. You got to turn around, come back to get to 95. Okay, so one of the other ones you might become familiar with, especially with the Giorgio folks, is 76. 76 is an interstate. Okay, 176 leaves 76 and goes to Reading. Goes all the way to Reading. Where you pick up the triple deuce up there and all the roads over there, but it ends. That's it. It stops up there. 176 gets off, and then it becomes 222.
Yeah.
Okay, so and so that that's a spur. That's not a loop. It's not coming back unless you turn around and come back. Okay, so odd numbers are spurs. Even numbers are loops.
That's pretty cool.
Pretty cool, huh? So, our first interstate in the United States begins with 4. Where's 1, 2, and 3? If it begins with 4,
I know that.
That's down here. Okay? Otherwise known as Alligator Alley. Okay, so we know that if it's an even numbered interstate, what directions does it run?
East-west.
East-west, okay? So it's an east-west, and it's right down here, okay? Runs from Tampa along Orlando, okay? So that's one. That's where it actually starts, okay? So
It's not Hawaii.
if I start with number 4, where does 1, 2, and 3 go? Don't know where they are. They're in Hawaii, okay? And they're not called interstates there. They're called Hawaiian roads, and it's H1, H2, H3. Okay, if you look on the Hawaiian map, okay, it'll show you.
I am right.
H1, 2, and
You
3
won't
is
be
right
driving
there.
any trucks there.
Well, the tolls are really high to get there. So you're not going to get many trips to Hawaii, I can tell you that. Yeah, and Easy Pass does not work here, by the way. Okay, so our interstates, and the reason I bring this up to you is very, very important. Understanding how the interstates are numbered will help you with the mile markers. So it starts with 94 and goes all the way to 96, okay, up in the Michigan and the Minnesota area, okay? So when you start at 4, goes all the way to 96, what's that tell you? The lowest numbered interstates start in the south and they work to the highest number in the north, okay? You start with what they call the 5, because California has terms for everything. It's called the 5, the 15, the 40, and everything is the out there. But you start with Interstate 5 in the West Coast, and you end up with Interstate 95 on the East Coast. What's that tell you? Lowest numbered is out on the West, highest numbers on the East. So, why is that important, Ed? I mean, that's great, that's wonderful that I know that, but what the hell's the
It'll help you
purpose?
with Jeopardy.
Okay, yeah, it might help you in a good game of what was that the game that they always played?
Jeopardy,
that,
right?
No. What's that game, Ed, that you play? That's
Trivia
Pursuit.
Yeah.
You know, and again, because I am filled with totally useless facts. Okay, I normally win that game. So the numbering of your interstates is important because it's exactly how your mile markers are. Okay, so when you are at the southern part of the state, you're at the 0 mile marker. Okay, and as you work your way through that state, the numbers go up. Just the same way as when you're coming into the state, the highest mile marker will be in the north, and you work your way all the way down south.
How about this one?
Okay, this way, because the lowest number starts in California, the lowest mile marker starts out west
In each state.
and works its
In
way
each state as
in
well.
every state. Every state. It wouldn't matter if it's Wyoming, North Dakota, comes here,
I think I
zero,
noticed
the
that
0
when I
mile
was driving across the
marker
country.
goes all the way over to the highest mile
Well, I
marker.
drove up and back, so I think I noticed that.
Yep. So in every state in the union, exactly the way that the interstates are numbered, the lowest is in the south, the highest is north, the lowest is west, the highest is east. That's exactly how your mile markers are done.
Who created the system?
Who created that?
Who
Okay,
created
pretty
that?
cool, huh?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so it wasn't some Washington bureaucrat, I can guarantee you that. Okay, so that's really a really good way, because now I have some indication as a truck driver when I'm putting that 68.5-foot vehicle out on the interstate, did I get on the right exit? Okay, so if I know for some reason, okay, I'm coming through this area in Georgia, I know that as soon as you enter here in Garden City and you exit out of here at exit 3 in Kingsland, Georgia, okay, this is where all the truck stops, by the way, Kingsland, Georgia, that's 3 miles from the line, okay? So when you exit out of here, that this is the lowest, this would be the highest. So when I come into Georgia, the first mile marker I encounter is the 111.8 mile marker. So now I know it's 111.8 miles until I get into Florida.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's really good information for a truck driver, number one, okay, because then you can be driving and just watch the mile markers, know what interstate you're on, you basically know where the hell you're at. And the other nice thing about it is, if I happen to be coming from any other place and I hit the interstate right there, all I got to do is remember that at certain points where these cities are, where the mile marker is, and I'm watching the mile marker, 37.2, 37.1, 37, oh, I'm heading south. My numbers are going down, I got to be heading south. I went in the right direction.
Most of your driving is going to be on interstates anyway. Right?
You will see most of the United States from the interstate. Yes,
Yeah.
that is correct. So it's important to understand the interstate. The other thing that's nice about the way that they do this, and I don't know who came up with this, but this actually was pretty good. Your exit signs, okay, are an indication of what side of the road that the exit is on. So when you look at your sign, that big green sign up there, and it has the exit, okay, number written on it, if the exit number sign is on the left-hand side, your exit's on the left. If it's on the right-hand side, it's on the right.
Huh.
And in many cases, like the
pretty
Schuylkill Expressway, okay, they adopted the same system the National has. They have a lot of them in the center. They actually do have a lot of exits that come into the center of the road and come off the center, okay, like around the post office, the 30th Street Post Office. So when you look at exit signs, be very, very, there's all kinds of, there's informational signs, which are blue, okay, there's warning signs, there's tourist signs, the sign you're interested in is always going to be green. That's the sign that you're most interested in, is that green sign with the exit number above it. If it's on the left, exits to the left. If it's on the right, exits to the right.
You know where I get messed up on the interstate sometimes is when, especially with these GPSs, is when the only time you can get off is if you're all the way to the right and you're in the center and you're like, there goes the exit, and you're zipping down that middle lane.
Yep.
That drives me nuts.
Yeah, well, that's why a lot of times on the GPSs now, they have the lane assist. It'll pop up another screen, and it shows you the upcoming exit with the lanes that you should be in, okay, to do that. You will encounter that the very first time you head north, okay, because you having the ability to screw up really bad on the Jersey Turnpike is probably pretty good, because remember, if you stick too far to the right-hand side of the road, you're going right across the Lincoln Tunnel, okay? Bad move, that's not where we want to be. And if you're trying to get off and get over 287, you're going to encounter the spot in the road where it's actually going to take you up towards the GW, okay? That's good. But you think you screwed up because now everything says George Washington Bridge. You say, oh, damn, I didn't do this. But that's actually what you wanted to do, So, you just, that's why I don't like GPS for my mainstay of navigation. It's not bad to get a couple of notes from, to keep statistics on, just to get a snapshot of where I'm at, okay? But to understand the trip, I really wanted to get into the atlas and see what I'm doing. Yeah, I really do. And then, of course, the invaluable part of this is going to be call the driver who runs that all the time and say, what route do you take? And is that a good route to take? Say, yeah, and then I'll give you a shortcut how to get into this one and get in there. And then you'll learn. You'll start to understand how these roads are put together and where you're not supposed to be. That's a big clue. So, okay, that's my interstate lesson.